All right, everyone, good evening. I'm going to work to get your attention and have you all quiet down so we can get started and be respectful of everybody's time. I just want to start with, we are going to move through the program relatively quickly tonight in an effort to reserve adequate amount of time at the end for dialogue. And to do that, that means that we're going to ask for folks to hold questions and comments until all the presentations are over. Our commitment back is to move rapidly through these presentations so that we can get to that open dialogue point. So with that, I would like to introduce the chair of the ACCOC Homelessness Task Force, council member out of the city of Costa Mesa, Mr. John Stevens.
Thank you very much. You know, I don't get any rounds of applause at city council meetings. I'm sure you guys all understand that. So that really feels good. So welcome to everybody. Like Heather said, I'm from the city of Costa Mesa. I was elected in 2016. I've got our mayor here, Sandy Guinness, Katrina Foley here on the city council, our city manager. We have a real commitment in Costa Mesa to addressing the homelessness issue. I see a lot of friendly faces in the crowd, and I'm really happy that you're all here. Do you know that we have 31 municipalities out of 34 that are represented at that dinner? So let's give it up for that. I think we have so many folks here. We have people here from the county, including the chairman of the Board of Supervisors. I'll talk about him in a moment. But we have so many people because I think we all understand that homelessness in the county of Orange has reached a crisis proportion. And you know, because of decisions that were made not necessarily by the people in this room, but by our predecessors or inaction, it's gotten to this point. But it's a testament to you all, and it's a testament to our municipalities and our county that we've turned a corner, and it's decisions we can make from today going forward that matters. And this is the beginning of that commitment. You know, how many of you were at the San Antonio trip? See how many people went to San Antonio? So last month, the whole group, you can see there were 11 cities represented, the county was represented, the state was represented. We all went to San Antonio, Texas. And we saw a model that has been working in San Antonio, has greatly alleviated homelessness, hasn't eliminated it, but greatly alleviated it. And the key to this place that we went to, Haven for Hope, is it's a private public partnership. And it's a partnership between private enterprise, government, and nonprofits, and healthcare. And we're different than San Antonio, I get it. We're 34 cities, but 31 of them are here. And we can use that as a model for collaboration, for finding regional solutions and integrating our effort and working together and getting beyond the model, as much as we hear from our constituents, that a solution to homelessness in Costa Mesa is to have more homelessness in Huntington Beach. That does not work. And Patrick, that does not work, does it? No. Barbara, it doesn't work, right? And by the same token, you would agree with me that the solution in Huntington Beach is not more homelessness in Costa Mesa. Thank you. So there was another thing that happened recently. How many of you were at federal court on Tuesday? Right. Federal court on Tuesday was an incredible thing. We had Judge Carter, who presided regarding the River Trail case, and he really kind of called us to action. He said, today we're going to do something about this. Today we're going to start to alleviate homelessness. And I want to call out and compliment Chairman Doe. And he deserves our applause. He's a fine leader, a fine attorney, and a great public servant, and he took charge. And I saw it with my own eyes, and so did the whole county, and I appreciate it. You're a man of action. So let us begin. So when I thought about this, I thought, well, you know, I was named after John Kennedy. So I'll close with a John Kennedy quote. It's really a paraphrase of John Kennedy, if I can find it. This is from his inauguration, and I want to apply this to homelessness in Orange County. All this will not be finished in the first 100 days, nor will it be finished in the first 1,000 days, nor in our time of service, nor perhaps in our lifetime. But let us begin. Let us begin tonight. And I'm going to begin this program by welcoming Heather Stratman, the CEO of ACCOC.
Well, thank you. That was an excellent welcome, and I very much appreciate Councilmember Stevens, your focus on and emphasis on this sort of regional collaboration and regional problem solving. Having nearly every city here today, along with our partners at the county, I think this is just a terrific start. I think we've been working towards tonight for several years now, to be quite honest, and it's just, it warms my heart to see all of you here tonight, so I just so appreciate you taking the time to be here with us. That concept of regional thinking and problem solving is the lens that the association strives to achieve all of our policy making. We really focus on this very regional collaboration because we believe that that is very effective in serving our cities. I believe we will find countywide solutions to the challenges surrounding homelessness, but only through a collaborative regional approach. And in my mind, collaboration means the county, the 34 cities, nonprofits, the business and health community rallying together. It will take all of us, and this is complex, and everyone has a very important role in this. If you've been following us, you know we've been very busy at the association on this particular issue. Last year, we sponsored AB 346, which became effective January 1st of this year. The legislation will allow contiguous cities to pool resources to fund affordable housing, emergency shelters, permanent supportive housing, and rapid rehousing. We've hosted educational tours and programs here at home and all the way to San Antonio, Texas. And we've been collaborating with the county and the nonprofit community and will continue to support their leadership in any way possible. It is the collective group effort that has gotten us here tonight to offer a path forward. I'm eager for the discussion. We will hear from county and community partners, Chairman of the Board of Supervisors, Andrew Doe, Sue Parks, CEO of United Way, Orange County, and Dan Young, who many of you know as the former mayor of Santa Ana, as well as a leading business and community partner. But to get us started, I'd like to welcome to the podium Kelsey Brewer, who's a member of the ACCOC team, and she is going to walk you through our regional response proposal. Thank you again for being here, and I'll let Kelsey take it away.
Good evening. Can everybody hear me okay? As Heather said, I am Kelsey Brewer, the policy manager for the Association of California Cities, Orange County. I probably know all of you from a couple different areas of work that I do, but today I'm putting on our homelessness policy hat to present to you an idea about how we move from thinking about homelessness as individual cities and to begin thinking about it as a region. So we're going to present to you today a plan of what we think that looks like, and then have a discussion about how we can collectively come together to agree to move forward. So, context for me as a policy person is really important because I think it helps us figure out how we get from where we are to where we want to be. And so to start that, we have to kind of figure out how we got here. Homelessness does not happen in a vacuum, and it's important to understand the causes of it that have gotten us to the crisis situation that we're experiencing today. So there's a couple different things in my mind that are key points. The first would be that in the January 2015 point in time count, when OC United Way analyzed that data, what they found was, based on our numbers, 1 in every 200 residents in Orange County have experienced at least one night of homelessness. In 2015, the association decided that the cities needed to become more involved in discussions and best practice sharing, so we launched our ACCOC Homelessness Task Force, which, have any of you ever been to that? A few of you? I know you have, because I RSVP you all the time. That has over 80 people that show up every single month. And we discuss best practice sharing and what we can learn from each other. And that was our first step into trying to begin thinking about homelessness regionally. On the state side, in 2016, the California legislature passed the No Place Like Home program, which were specific state dollars that were going to permanent supportive housing projects. So again, the first time that the state had kind of stepped up to begin providing some of the funding that cities and counties so critically needed. And then in 2017, we did the point in time count again. Heather and I woke up at 4 a.m. and went out to Newport Beach to help. And what we found was that from 2013 to 2017, Orange County experienced a 54% increase in the number of unsheltered homeless in the county. So the problem had gotten worse. And then in 2017, United Way, in partnership with UCI and Jamboree, released their full cost of homelessness study. And a key finding was that if we were to invest in permanent supportive housing, it would on average save the cities $42 million a year. And lastly, in this last legislative session, the state of California passed the largest housing package, which included legislation like SB2, SB3, which will be on the ballot in November. And the combination of this with No Place Like Home has the possibility of providing a windfall of dollars up to $4.5 billion. So that's a little bit of context about the opportunities and challenges about why we're here. Our numbers are important. We're different. We're not LA, we're not San Francisco, we're Orange County. So 68% of our homeless are from Orange County. In 2015, the cost of homelessness study found that cities spent $125 million. They were the largest contributor to paying for homelessness issues. Our point in time count data showed us from 2017 that we had over 4,500 people that were homeless, either sheltered or unsheltered. And because we want to begin thinking about this regionally, it's also important for us to acknowledge there are differences between North County and Central County and South County. And so in the Southern SPA, they had a total of 674 sheltered and unsheltered homeless. In the Northern SPA, they had a total of over 1,800 sheltered and unsheltered homeless. And in the Central SPA, a little under 2,100 sheltered and unsheltered homeless. So the problem has gotten worse. But most importantly, what we learned from these numbers is there's not one region in Orange County that's not affected by this. So what is the path forward? Understanding the nuances of the homelessness crisis is important, but it's only as good as what action we take from here. And so this is going to be where we talk to you about what we think that path forward looks like. But I want to first define some terms to clarify what we're talking about today. Those of you that went on San Antonio, I'm so excited that you're here. But that model differs a little bit from what we'll be talking about today. That refers to emergency shelters, transitional or bridge housing. What we're going to be talking about today is permanent supportive housing. So permanent supportive housing is a nationally recognized, proven, and cost-effective solution to the needs of vulnerable people with disabilities who are homeless, institutionalized, or at a greater risk of these conditions. Specifically, it serves folks with long-term disabilities such as mental illnesses, developmental disabilities, physical disabilities, substance use disorders, and chronic health conditions. Now, how much of it do we have? I don't think a lot of us know how much of the housing supply we have that is dedicated to our homeless population. So this shows a chart from 2010 to 2017. The number I want you all to look at is the one in the gray. We have a little over 2,600 permanent supportive housing units here in Orange County, and those are all full today. So I have this magical number, 2,700, and that's going to be what we focus on today. So why is this the number? And our staff is going to be passing out some spreadsheets for you all to take a look at, and I'll explain what's on those in just a second. Why is 2,700 the number? Well, it takes into account the total number of unsheltered homeless, which is a little over 2,500. I also want to point out that there's a margin of error in the point in time count. There's typically usually more than this than we find. It also takes into account the number of sheltered homeless, which is a little over 2,200. And the reason it's important that we still think about the sheltered homeless in the context of permanent supportive housing is that many of you have residency regulations on your shelters and your bridge housing, meaning that they can only stay in shelters for 90 days or 6 months and can only be in transitional housing for a year or 2 years. And without a release valve on the back end in the form of permanent supportive housing, the cycle starts all over again. And lastly, 2,700 is important because it would double the overall stock of permanent supportive housing that we currently have in Orange County. How do we get to 2,700 though? This is for the policy people in the room. I like data, so I'm going to explain to you how we got to this number. We cannot think about homelessness as terms of 1, 2, or even 3 cities. We know that it doesn't work because that's what we've been doing, and our numbers have increased by over 50% since 2013. More importantly, If you look at the breakdown from the point in time count, there was not a single city in Orange County that did not somehow contribute to the overall homelessness population in 2017. Taking a regional approach to permanent supportive housing, it places the region at a better advantage for leveraging both internal and external resources and funding that we talked about, that $4.5 billion that the state is looking to allocate. It is not effective if we don't go after it regionally. So in terms of data, we utilize the Department of Finance numbers, their most recent population numbers, and we broke down the overall population of the County of Orange across 34 cities. We also included the population that lives in the unincorporated parts of the county. That's the first column on your sheet that you'll see. Second, we then calculated what percentage of the overall Orange County population each city had. That's the second column on your sheet. And lastly, we utilized that percentage to populate 2,700 permanent supportive housing units out based on individual city population. And those counts are in front of you right now. As you can see, it takes a huge number, 2,700, and breaks it down into what we would argue is much more manageable in terms of absorbing into your communities, but also in terms of financials. So I want to talk a little bit about the regionalization of response. You'll remember that I broke down the overall homelessness counts into the SPAs earlier in the presentation. I also want to show you what a breakdown of these 2,700 units would look like based on each SPA. In North County, it would be 907. In Central County, it would be 990. And in South County, it would be 696 units. So while we want you to understand what your individual allocation would be, there's also a path forward in terms of working regionally together as well. I have probably already taken up too much time. So we are going to have a discussion about these numbers. I know that you all probably have questions about how we got to them or why we think they're the best numbers, but we're going to save that for the end. But this is my contact information, which I'll leave on the screen here for a little bit. Even if it's not a question about this, any of the work ACCOC is doing, you can email me and I'll be happy to get back to you. But I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Chairman Andrew Doe from the County of Orange to give some comments about regional needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelsey. Good evening. Let me take a moment to introduce myself since I represent the 1st District. Probably have not met many of you here outside of District 1. District 1 includes the city of Santa Ana, Garden Grove, Westminster, about a quarter of Fountain Valley, and an unincorporated area called Midway City with about 6,000 residents. We are in Central Orange County, and demographically, we are the lowest income and the highest users of social services, and probably home to the largest portion of the homeless residents that we have in the County of Orange. So this issue is very close, not only to me personally, but also to my work as a county supervisor. When I think of the work that you all do at the cities, I cannot think of anything that reflects more the spirit of what is best about America. I came here as a refugee. I spent a few years in Alabama and then in Garden Grove. Went to college at UC Davis, small towns back then. And what I saw in the first 10 years living here in the US is, it is through the work and the sense of community that we have as cities that is the strength of America. That's what we are strongest as a people, is the sense that we're going to take care of each other, that we do not let people fall behind. I came here as an immigrant and refugee, and guess what? It was through the kindness of strangers that I got to where I am today. It was the retired teacher that took me into a home when seeing me and my brothers just kind of wandering the street while my parents were working in a cotton mill in Alabama, and took me to the local bank, bought us a set of commemorative bicentennial coins, and took the time to explain to us why that is so important, that concept of bicentennial. What does it mean to be an American? That's what had motivated me, empowered me to be where I am today. And so when I think back of the work that we do and you all do as part of AACCOC, that is the strength of what we are as a community and as a county. I'm just fortunate enough to hold the title of county supervisor, so I represent on a more regional level the work that you all do. But ultimately, I represent all of you, and more so now as a chairman of the Board of Supervisors. So let me take a step back where we are today. It is rare, really, to see your work for me over the last 3 years as a county supervisor to be distilled in 1 week. In 1 week and culminating in today with the special meeting of the board to approve the stipulation, the agreement, the settlement that we reached in Judge Carter's court to implement a county-wide system of care to deal with homelessness. It's really rare, and it's even more satisfying to me because in a few hours will be New Year's Eve, Lunar New Year, for people who celebrate Lunar New Year. And so it is so cool to be able to say, okay, I wrapped up with a neat bow and now I'm done with that issue, right? So I can celebrate the new year with, feeling like I have accomplished something and no loose ends on that issue. So I am just stoked. And in a few years, I'm gonna be going to the temple and guess what? We're gonna get to just celebrate. And I know some of my Central Orange County people will be going to the events later as well. It's going to go well into midnight and beyond. So it's the start of a long evening for me. So let me describe to you where we're at today. When I first got involved and got called over and appeared in Judge Carter's court, I really expected the worst because I didn't know which way Judge Carter was going. And I know from our Board of Supervisors meetings that we have critics. And I wanted to make sure that Judge Carter has a clear vision of what we do as a county. And I think the only way that we can fashion any kind of a solution that would be acceptable to Judge Carter is if he believes that we act in good faith and that we have a system in place in order to help homeless individuals. It cannot just be lip service. It cannot be just, oh, we have a plan. And this is where I want to fill you in on the things that we have done. We could not get here today to be able to come up with the plan going forward that Dan Young will be talking to you more about later without the work that has been done by cities, by nonprofits, a lot of stakeholders in the county in the last 2 years. We started with funding. We continue with the courtyard in Santa Ana. And then within 6 months after that, we opened up Kramer Lane in Anaheim. And we're in the process of buying a facility in Orange. And we are continuing to expand our effort with the nonprofits through our contracts. We authorized just a month ago, and it's not because of the litigation. We did this on our own before they even filed a lawsuit. $20 million from our MHSA Mental Health Safety Act dollars for permanent supportive housing for the homeless or patients with mental health issues. $20 million. And so what you have here is a track record of proven programs that have helped a lot of individuals. And the next step is to include cities and the rest of the stakeholders in Orange County. And when you look at some of the things that we have done so far with the courtyard, I'm gonna give you some just broad numbers. We serve, even today, I just stopped in today this afternoon just to see 415 individuals in there. And we could have served more, but we saved 10 spots just for those from the riverbed, because we want to put a priority to that population, at least for this week leading to Tuesday. 415 individuals. And since we opened up the courtyard in Santa Ana about 18 months ago, we average monthly 13 individuals that have been permanently transitioned out of homelessness and into permanent supportive housing. 13 individuals every month, average. On any given day, 20% of the population in the courtyard actually get dressed, get ready, and go to work while living in the courtyard. And well, how did they do that? It's because all of the facilities and the amenities that we put in there is designed with one purpose in mind. That is to help them regain their personal dignity. That is the first step. And I tell you what, I draw that from my own experience. 3 months living in refugee camps, sleeping on an army cot on a dirt patch in the middle of Guam, in the Philippines, going through the process. I know what it means, how demeaning it is, how demoralizing it is. And then when you got out of it, guess what? The challenges that you face to overcome and the challenges and to reestablish your life can be so overwhelming that it's almost self-defeating in its effect. So the first step is you've got to allow people to shower, do the laundry, have food in a warm, protected space at a minimum. And then you give them slowly the ability to then reclaim parts of their psyche first and then their life later. And it was through that work with the courtyard that we then led to the opening of Kramer. And the Kramer site is more of a transitional housing model. You can't walk in, it's a referral location. So the courtyard is kind of a low barrier to entry that you take people in, and then when they have been served and ready, then they move on to transitional housing and in anticipation of ultimately getting into permanent supportive housing. Do you know that at the courtyard, the county has not paid for food in a year and a half since we've been open? It's been coordinated through volunteers this whole time, 3 meals a day. We noticed that the County of Orange, people are generous, but it was just uncoordinated. Some days we would have 4 or 5 different charities going to serve food, and then some days there wouldn't be any. And so what we did is we just contacted all of the nonprofits. We said, look, church groups and volunteer groups, instead of just going out there, work through us, so that way you can pick up and reserve a meal for whichever day you want. And we have a facility, go in and serve people there. So even though we only have 400 people and who don't stay there all day, we serve over 1,200 meals a day. So we have people from the Civic Center, from the Plaza of the Flag over in the city of Santa Ana, who come over to eat there as well. And so we really learn from our efforts that it can work. But what I also learned is this. As mentioned earlier, we can't rely on just a few cities, right, to do all of the heavy lifting. And so what I see my role and the Board of Supervisors' role is this. We are collaborators. We are the facilitator for the cities. We create, hopefully, a kind of a infrastructure, the backbone of a system on which cities will help to fill out. I have the privilege of being here, standing before you as a chair, but I'm relaying messages from all of my colleagues that we are committed to working with all of you to provide the resource for you to be able to create a system of care that will help all of us provide a regional solution to this problem. In closing, I want to share with you what Judge Carter did today is, I believe, going forward, will be a template, a model, really for the rest of the county. And I'll tell you why. We couldn't do this without Judge Carter basically saying to the homeless residents that, look, I understand your situation, but at some point you got to get help. The alternative cannot be that we just give up public space uncontrolled and just turn the other way and just let things be. Without without Judge Carter's order, and on Tuesday it will be implemented, the riverbed will be cleared out. Without that, we will continue to hit an impasse where we can offer service, but the services are not being taken up. So we're wasting resources and we're not reaching the right people. So I tell you that what I see here today going forward is a change, a new era in the County of Orange. And I really look forward to working with all of you to create this system of care. And I believe we can get there because we're capable of doing this. And the law enforcement, the nonprofit sector, everyone is standing ready to support all of you and the county in our joint effort. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman Doe. We want to keep things moving, so if you can all join me in welcoming Sue Park, CEO of United Way. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelsey. It's an honor to be here with all of you tonight. It's especially an honor to follow Chairman Doe, so thank you for those encouraging words of everything that's going on. And as we all know, it's been said tonight about all of the things that have been happening in our community in the last 2 weeks. And one of the things that I just wanted to say on behalf of the United Way is that we are here to help. We are a part of this community. I don't know how much all of you actually know about the United Way, but we are a separate 501c3. We in United Way Orange County is all about Orange County. We are focused on fighting for the health, the income, the education, and the housing of every person here in Orange County. And that's kind of how we look at our responsibility and how we hope to help do our part in terms of bringing this community together. And yes, that was my hairdo a few years ago, if you're looking like, who is that woman up there? But anyway, that was me. Anyway, I wanted to share that really at the end of the day, this is about people. And so there's so much misconception, and one of the things that United Way wants to do is really help in terms of the public awareness. We want to share the success stories. We want to share the good things. We want to help you in terms of educate perhaps the rest of your councils or your constituents know more about this issue. So to that end, I'm just going to bring up a real life person that our people met on the streets not too long ago. And this is a young woman living on the streets in Orange County. Her name is Lisa. Lisa had a hard childhood. Lisa was adopted at 3. At 9, she saw her adoptive mother kill herself. At 12, her father, her adoptive father, was taken away because they felt he was guilty of child neglect, and she saw him taken off to prison, and then she was bounced around again, ended up in a bad marriage. Through all of this, and who knows, at some point she started blaming herself on her father, what happened to her father. Has obviously very severe mental issues through all of the things she's experienced, and probably had some issues that should have been diagnosed when she was a child. Regardless, Lisa's living on our streets right now. And I keep thinking there's a lot of different reasons, a lot of different stories why people end up homeless, and everybody has a story. Nobody started off to be homeless. And so we always have to have that in mind as we're going through and find the solutions. So that is kind of the face in terms of what we want to do in terms of really help educate people about there's a variety of different reasons people are homeless. That always appeals to my heart. But as a business person, I go back to the cost study, and the cost study was referred to. It's on your table if you've not seen it before. This is the cost study that the United Way commissioned with Jamboree Housing. UCI did it. They had their top researchers on it. It's been, it's very, very well, I guess, visible now in the community, actually around the country. It's kind of a really well done research study. They had their top researchers. I think there were 260 some people interviewed, and they found out their personal stories. So out of that, we learned a lot. And I think for some of those, and Kelsey went through some of the numbers from that, but it was kind of interesting the fact that it costs twice as much to keep people living on the street than providing them permanent supportive housing, right? So again, we have the story of Lisa, that we need to do this because of the heart and we're all about the people, but there's also a really financial aspect to this, and there's about this community we live in that we can come forward together, and permanent supportive housing helps people like Lisa and helps the other people out there. So I'm really encouraged about how the community is coming together, and I applaud Heather and ACCOC and all the efforts that everybody's been doing to bring this together. At the United Way, we're big believers in collaboration, and one of the reasons we're stepping forward to say we're help is that on page 6 of this cost study, there is a series of recommendations that was done by a number of people in this room, and then they came back and said these are the things that will really help make this no longer an issue in Orange County, and we want to ensure that those get done. So we want to partner and help ensure that that happens. Part of that is the public awareness campaign. Part of it is just making sure that we understand the segments, we understand who gets prioritized, the people like Lisa that need to get into housing right away. So we're excited to play our role in that in terms of telling those stories. I also want to point out that in doing that, we know that sometimes you might need some help. So let me offer to all of you out in the cities, again, if there's city council, if there's constituents, there are community-wide meetings that the United Way can help in terms of sharing stories and why this is important, and we can help educate. We're happy to be there for you. We want to be a partner, and we want to help bring this community together. Some of you might not know that when for example, when the Affordable Care Act was passed, somebody had to come and bring Covered OC together. The United Way stepped forward and helped with that. We partner with several cities in this room, and we do the Earned Income Tax Credit programs and the VITA programs, and we do those for the county and help taxpayers. Last year, for example, bring back $16 million to this community. We worked with over 18,000 families. The Read Out Loud campaigns that help in early grade reading, we brought together 300 partners who lead those kind of collaboratives to make sure children are educated. So everything we do is about bringing this community together. Everything is about helping people be the best they can be so our next generation lives those healthy, happy, self-sufficient lives that we want them to. So think of us as a resource. We're going to start our public awareness campaign at the end of this month. We're going to kick off with some more information, and we want to hear the stories, we want to hear the success, and we also want to know what's not going well so we can help. So we can help bring this county to achieve this goal that we all have of helping people like Lisa get off the streets. I'm going to close with, because I think it's never too early to start. I don't know if you can read this, but this was from a board member that sent me, one United Way board member last night. And she has a 5-year-old daughter who lost her first tooth. And maybe inflation's gone up since I was a child, but this child put a note under her pillow. And if you can read it, it says, "Please, dear Tooth Fairy, please give me $50 to give half to the homeless and the other half will go to me and my family." And then she wants to know the Tooth Fairy's name. But anyway, this 5-year-old girl did not get $50, by the way. I immediately called my board member. But the point is people are aware at all ages, and we want to be the community that does the right thing, and we can do that together. So thank you for letting us be part of this journey with you, and please take us up on our offer to help. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue, and it's my pleasure to welcome our last speaker of the evening before we open up to all of you, Dan Young from Mind OC.
Thank you very much, and I do appreciate that picture up there. So first I want to extend to Supervisor Doe an appreciation for not only his leadership this week in Judge Carter's chambers, but his offer tonight of collaboration. As we all know, the relationship between the cities and the county isn't always the greatest. Things come up. Sometimes there's opposing views. Sometimes personalities and feelings get frayed. But then there's a time to come together. And it was, I think, a great act of leadership on his part to come here tonight and make that offer of collaboration. And it should not be lost on anyone in this room. That was leadership. We cannot address this problem without a healthy partnership between the cities and the county. And I want to thank you and the leadership of your organization for calling this meeting tonight and working together. The cities of Orange County have got a long history of coming together to solve complex regional problems. Most of the high-quality basic services we enjoy today are the direct result of past generations of people like yourselves who came together for some of the basic services that we offer on a regional basis, whether it's fire or police, sanitation, libraries, or water quality. You can look into the history of every single one of those issues and you will find people just like yourselves, elected officials and city managers, who got together, got over their differences, solved the problem, and made something happen within their time. Our extraordinary quality of life here in Orange County is built on this model. It is how we do our work, because we are not dominated by one big city. We are, in fact, 34 co-equals with the county. So this same collaborative regional approach, as you all know, was taken on transportation. I would just mention to you, in my time as mayor of Santa Ana, we merged the bus company and the Transportation Planning Agency to form OCTA. We all met as cities in the county to formulate a spending plan that went to the ballot and became Measure M. At the same time, there was a huge resistance of fear and backing of a new tax. There were speeches made about how it is Caltrans' problem to fix the freeways, the county's problem to complete the master plan of arterial highways, and the job of cities was to do local roads and put the pressure on the county and the state to do their job. That's not how it went, despite those words. Instead, what won out was another extraordinary collaboration in this county that put everyone at the table and saved our county from gridlock and stagnation. The transportation corridor agencies, fortunately, followed the same path of collaboration to make it happen. I distinctly remember getting a phone call from the planners at the time to come meet with me, and they wanted me to endorse and put forward to the city council a developer fee program taxing development in South Santa Ana, our most crucial redevelopment area. In my city of Santa Ana, the first reaction of my constituents was, we're not even within 10 miles of the first on-ramp of the corridors. What does our city get out of a South County road system? And who likes toll roads anyway? But instead, we came together, we joined, and we built those toll roads. And why? Because we believe that a problem in one community of Orange County is the problem of every city, and we all share a responsibility in solving problems as one group of cities. So we're here again. Here we are, this time, on your watch, in your generation of leadership. This time, instead of solving an infrastructure issue, we're here tonight to talk about the complex social and health issues associated with homelessness. The homeless problem in Orange County is found in every city. It's growing, it's eroding our enjoyment of our public spaces. It's led to public outcries for action that are only going to get louder, and I fear even uglier if we don't act. Ignoring the problem, making it someone else's problem, will be a disaster for Orange County. A full engagement of every single city and the county, just like all those other collaborations I mentioned, is essential and an immediate priority. I would only underscore that with what's happened in the last few days in Judge Carter's chambers. I don't think any of us want to spend the next 10 years solving problems in a federal courthouse, despite the terrific leadership that Judge Carter lent to this current situation. Which is not to say that you have not already engaged on this issue. And you've done terrific things so far already. Costa Mesa spends $1 million a year on this issue. I had a wonderful visit with your city manager. That's a big commitment. Santa Ana hosts the courthouse shelter. Anaheim worked with the county to open the Bridges Transitional Living Center. Many cities, if not most cities in this room, have made meaningful contributions with money and votes to solve this problem. So why is the problem getting worse? Yes, we can point to the opioid crisis. We can talk about lack of affordable housing, jail release policies, drug rehab recruitment policies, and they're all true. They all contribute, but they're problems. They're not the solution. The solution lies in establishing a regional response with everybody at the table. This solution first means that we must commit to come together to establish a regional system to solve the problem. Every city must be a participant and a contributor. Once the table is set, and don't lose the message tonight, the invitation from Supervisor Doe to come to the table. It was extraordinary. Say yes. No one city should be asked to do it all. Every city has an excuse for saying, I've done enough. But the problem remains. We need to reset and solve it on a go-forward basis. So what does the solution look like? Do we know what the Orange County solution looks like? The fact of the matter is, we do. We need a world-class mental health care system in Orange County. We have 911, paramedics, emergency rooms, trauma centers, outpatient clinics, doctors. We have an entire system for our medical health. We know how to access it. It responds quickly. The public understands it. And we're nowhere near that when it comes to mental health. We need that system. The County of Orange and the Mental Health Coalition of Orange County, chaired by Dr. Rick Afable, is working on a plan for a world-class mental health care system in Orange County. Once done and implemented, this will be a huge step forward in dealing with a significant portion of the homeless population who suffer from mental illness. We can find ways to deal with this problem, such as the young lady who was mentioned tonight. She shouldn't be on the streets. We can make that system work, and we can make it work very well. We need 4 to 5 centers where people can come in when crises occur. They call them crisis stabilization units. Many of you have had to deal with these as elected officials. We're trying to find the appropriate ways to site them right now, and we are going to get to 4 to 5 crisis stabilization units. I've argued, by the way, that we need to change the name of that. What a terrible branding idea, crisis stabilization unit. I sometimes wonder how many Starbucks would be approved if they were crisis caffeine infusion centers. Once we have these 4 to 5 centers of care, urgent care for mental illness, we can cover the first 24 hours. Those that have them in other counties have had upwards of an 80% success rate in getting those people who come through that door stabilized, often back on their meds. They find their families, they can place them in the appropriate facilities, and the system works. We have 3+ million people. We have 1. We need 4 to 5, and we need to get them done this year. We will need your help in siting them, and we, those of us that are advocating for them, have to do a better job of proposing where they go. Second in the solution is what Susan Price, I can never remember her title, so I'll call her the homeless czar. She hates that. I think she's here tonight. There she is. Susan is working on a very sophisticated, robust intake system that you need to come to the table and help design. You are at that table. She holds meetings within her. She calls them spas. Now there's a marketing piece, special planning areas. That system needs to be finalized. It needs to be put in place, and we all need to go to work to implement it. And I know she's going to do a study session with the board here in March, and I hope you're paying attention and participating in that. That is critical. That can get us through the next 90 days of a crisis of homelessness or mental illness, maybe even 6 months. But let's assume that those crisis stabilization centers exist in abundance. Let's assume that Susan's system is in place. We still need the third and most important part of this system, and we need to go to work on it right now, and that responsibility falls, unfortunately, directly in this room. The third part of the system is that we need to build 2,700 permanent supportive housing units to have a full, comprehensive system and not have people constantly churning out of care and back out onto the streets. What do those look like? Is that scary? I've had somebody say, well, that'll just take us to 20-story high-rise living, and we don't approve of that. Somebody said, well, that's another tent. I don't think we should do that. No, that's what those look like. They're right along the wall. They exist in your community today, Midway City, Anaheim, and Irvine. You can go visit them, and I defy you to pick it out of that neighborhood as anything different than what's in that neighborhood today. They're first-class facilities. They're integrated into the community. The neighbors love them, and people are happy within those facilities. The problem is we only have those. We need more. We need 2,700 to make the system work. So how much is that going to cost? So hold on. 2,700 units is probably going to cost about $800 million. For some of you, that might sound like real money. That is serious money, and it's probably going to take 5 to 7 years, if we all go to work now, to find them, plan them, entitle them, build them, and fill them. But if you look at the existing streams of money that exist today for permanent supportive housing, somewhere around 50% of that money over this next 5 to 7 years is going to be available to you. So let's reduce the daunting number to maybe half of that. Kelsey put up a slide talking about the state of California and their bond issues. Somewhere, she calls it 450, I think it's probably closer to 600, is going to be available in the state. If we get 10% of that, that's $400 to $500 million. Now, we all know that Orange County does not fare well in these bond programs. Sacramento, Los Angeles, San Diego, San Francisco, we love to complain here in this county about how we don't get our fair share. They steal our money. But the fact of the matter is that we haven't presented a united front. We haven't spoken with one voice. We haven't gone to Sacramento and changed the narrative. We haven't said, we have a plan, we have the people in place, the nonprofit developers are geared up, they're ready to go, read our plan, set the money aside, give us flexibility in how it's used, let us implement our plan, and we will give you a great solution for Orange County. I will tell you, going back up to Sacramento and The best way to find these people is just wait for the end of the day and go to their favorite watering hole and start talking about this. And I saw some old friends, met some new ones, and I asked how that would sell if Orange County came forward with that. They said they'd love it. There isn't a bias against us. They just haven't heard it from us. We haven't been at the table together, writing a plan and taking it up there and changing the narrative. That's our opportunity right now, this year. If we don't, they will pass all that money out and we'll lose again. We'll have our complaint, but we lose. So we have a chance to make that plan happen. Scott Larson and some of the Jamboree people are here. George is here. We've been meeting quietly for a few weeks to say to them, if we did come together, if we got the leadership that's here tonight to support 2,700 units in this fair share plan, can you step up to produce them? The answer now is yes. Took a little work, but everybody's spooled up and ready to go. And I want to thank Scott for his leadership. He's just, again, he's a saint in this business, and we need him, and he's done a great job in pulling everybody together. So what do we do? There's a few things that I want to leave you with here that we can do right now. Number one, in this room, we can commit to a coordinated regional solution to the problem. It's not every dog for himself. It's not good luck to the county. It's all of us in together, a regional solution. Number two, we can commit to a collaborative effort, as Chairman Doe laid out tonight, to sit at the table and design and implement this regional system and go up to the state of California, the legislature, and make our case for fair share funding for this program, including the permanent supportive housing. Number three, we can commit to work with Susan Price to complete the design and implementation of her continuum of care plan. Number four, you can invite the County of Orange and the Mental Health Coalition later this year to come to you and present to you what a world-class mental health care system might look like in this county and how we can make that work as part of it. Not just for homelessness, but for all of us. So as I started on this beat, I've received over 25 phone calls from people, many of them famous, many of them rich, who've said to me, sometimes in a whisper, I lost my son, I lost my daughter, I couldn't find help, and I have all the resources possible. We need that system, and we'd like you to hear about it later this year. And finally, the cities, through this association, with a great staff that you have, and Heather and Kelsey. Kelsey's awesome, by the way. If I was still back at the Irvine Company, you wouldn't have her. Lucky for you, I met her after I retired from the company. Commit to lead the effort to cite, approve, finance, through the scheme we've talked about, details to follow, 2,700 units of permanent supportive housing. My recommendation to you is so that the communication can be terrific and the expertise can be there, commit your community development director. Most of you have lost the redevelopment director, you've got community development directors. Commit your community development director to participate through the association to sit down and really get this thing done and get it done right. That way the sensitivities of your town as to location, timing, all the rest can be in the room, and you can learn in real time what's going on to devise this plan. That's my invitation to you on how, my suggestion to you on how we can make this work. I've seen this. I'm very proud to have been a mayor. I'm very proud to have been in this room many times over many years, and I've seen it work. And I am absolutely convinced, after talking to people like Tom Hatch and many of you, we can get this done. Thank you.
But we're gonna go ahead and open it up for some dialogue. What we are gonna ask is, we are videoing and audioing this for recording purposes, so we ask that you do take a moment to use the microphone so we can pick you up on video. So we're gonna be cautious of that, but we're gonna go ahead and open it up to the floor and, who wants to start? Barbara.
Hang on, Barbara.
I think I'll just announce folks, as long as I know who they are.
speak into
that.
Okay. Hi, I'm Barbara, and my question really is, thank you, Dan Young. I think to get started, we always need some steps, right? And so I guess my question would be, if we're all committed to doing this, and the numbers on this sheet, for example, how would we begin to do that? Do we go to the meetings that you started to talk about? Because I'm ready to go. Here you go.
So I think we're in a phase, and there's a lot of folks that have been, working quietly behind the scenes. But I think we're at the phase where we're asking the cities to dedicate their community development director or whoever is most appropriate in your municipality to join us in we're just gonna get down into it, right? We need your sites. And just to be very honest, we need your sites, we need to know what would work in your community, what won't work, what's feasible, and we need to start to pull that together from a regional planning process. The funding that we've talked about is, we have to back into those in terms of goals and timing, the criteria that we will need to address in these plans. But this is different. This is us coming together. Collaboration on this plan is not going to be easy, but it's going to be so much better. Because how many of you have applied for the 2006 Prop 1C funds, right? I mean, I can look out into the cities and remind you who applied, and 3 of you won. A few $1 million here and there. We don't want that anymore. So those funding sources are going to force us into this planning process that is somewhat technical. I would say on the elected official side, we have to continue that effort as well, so that you're informed and educated about what we're trying to accomplish, because ultimately you will have to answer to your residents.
First of all, I don't know if it's working. One of the things that we found, my name's Al Murray with the City of Tustin, and I was fortunate enough to go on our trip to San Antonio. But one of the key components that I saw there as their big success was their private-public partnership. So Dan, I would ask you to see if you can help us, because Valero, as we know, is one of the biggest oil refinery companies, and their chairman was part of that task force and committed to contributing $2 million right off the start, and that really kind of incentivized things. So I think one of the things that we need to think about here in Orange County, especially considering the economic vitality here, is what can we do to get the private sector to become part of this, because it's something that they're going to benefit from, and getting them on board to help us with the financial piece, I think is going to be very, very important.
So, thank you very much, and that is critical. So, tonight I'm going to out somebody that was going to wait till next time, so because you asked. We have had an outpouring from the private sector. Usually you gotta go out there and agenda that. You got a problem, can you help solve it? This has been organic. It's come up, it's been incredible. So United Way did a fabulous job of taking a leadership role and saying we are going to put the problem on the table. They have great partnerships within the business community, and they're going to rally those business relationships starting on February 27 to come to the table and help and contribute. And in the back of the room is a man named Bill Taramino, who has taken it as his personal job to go out and talk to some of the wealthiest amongst us and see if we can put together something that would be tantamount, if not a multiple, of what you saw in San Antonio. That work is well underway. What we need is this. When you approach the private sector, you bring them in a room, they're busy, they know they're going to have to commit. We say checkbooks on the table, let's go. They need to know there's a plan. They don't want to hear that it's going to fall apart later, haven't got it together, don't know quite how the pieces work. It's got to be a solid business plan. So what we're talking about tonight with the community development directors, come now to the table, join with the county and Supervisor Doe. What will come up is a plan. At the same time, though, Al, we are going to have the private sector rally, get ready, and be prepared to engage and help in a very meaningful way.
Jose Moreno, Mayor Pro Tem, City of Anaheim. Thank you for bringing us together this evening, Heather, and Mayor Young, for your words, and certainly the United Way for this wonderful report that we've been spreading around as much as we can to media, to our neighborhoods, to fellow council members who often struggle with data and prefer anecdotes. So this data is absolutely vital to us. And so and creates the crux of my question of what I'm hearing this evening with what we need to be doing as a collective. According to the data, what I heard tonight is that the principal thing we need to, one of the first things we need to focus on is a world-class mental health system, which is I think what a lot of us believe is a major issue. But the United Way study says that accounts for about 17% of the issue. The primary issue that the United Way study suggests is caused primarily by a lack of sufficient income or job loss combined with high cost of housing, right? So that accounts for 76% according to the United Way study. So I'm curious what our collective work will be to assure that we have the sustainable wages the United Way says we need, and how the private sector can help with that, and how cities might be more progressive in the development of that extremely low to low income housing that is so needed, while the federal government is cutting back on those funds, where in Anaheim we have a 6 to 8 year wait for our housing voucher program. 30,000 people are on our waiting list, and and another 30,000 are estimated to be one paycheck away from that riverbed. So we might build the strongest world-class mental health system, but I don't know if that resolves the economic issues that we're confronting. So I'm wondering if there might be some ideas about that, of how we as cities might confront 76% of the issue.
I'll start and then I'll turn it over to Dan. One thing I would mention is in the housing funds that are going to be made available from the state, there are different, I would call them, buckets of funds, right? So you have funds that are dedicated to permanent supportive housing, and then you have other funds dedicated to affordable housing, what we would consider traditional affordable housing. You also have funds that will be dedicated to veterans and others. So there will be different buckets of funds. And when we do our planning process, we will want to be identifying the different populations that would be served through these dollars, so that we can align our plan with the money that would be coming through. But I will let Dan address the mental health.
Let me just make sure that we have a little clarity around that. Thank you for that question, because we wouldn't want to have the impression that 2,700 units of permanent supportive housing are there for people, for example, with severe mental illness. No. In fact, those studies really talk about that population is more like 500 to go to your numbers. So this is a much broader reach across the entirety of the homeless population and those who need affordable housing. if we do this right, we get on the preventative side of this, and we can supply affordable housing across the board, as well as permanent supportive housing. So it's not just permanent supportive housing for those with mental illness. It will be a component of it. A good example is the one in Irvine that I'm very familiar with. We did it on my watch, and it's 70 units of affordable housing, 20 of which are permanent supportive housing. I was just in there the other day with Supervisor Bartlett, and we went and visited with a young man with severe mental illness from the streets, now housed, doing fabulous. And I asked him, I said, "So you doing great?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "That roof over my head." He actually got a part-time job. He's got a bicycle on the porch. He's moving, he's doing it. But it's in, to your point, it's in a 70-unit affordable housing project. So there's lots of technical things we need to get into, but it's not just for mental illness.
I'm going to hop in on the question also, because I'm the one that's doing the research on our funding sources. So I want to give you an example. With No Place Like Home Dollars, which provides a large windfall to the county, and it's special because there's dedicated dollars that have to come to Orange County, but also competitive dollars that if we can focus our attention, we can apply for. The way that the state has set up those dollars is to do exactly what you're talking about. Prioritizing permanent supportive housing for our chronically homeless, those with permanent disabilities, physical, mental, but also achieving the underlying causes of homelessness, which deal with affordable housing. So if you look at the grant guidelines for No Place Like Home, no more than 49% of the units in whatever project you come up with can be permanent supportive housing units and be funded through No Place Like Home. You receive a bonus when you include affordable housing in those guidelines. And so it would serve us well to remember that a lot of times these projects are going to be connected together simply because of how we're going to have to go after the funding sources.
Hi, everyone. Oh, sorry. My name is Kim Nguyen. I'm a city council member with the city of Garden Grove, and I also just wanted to make a comment and just say that I'm really glad that we're having this discussion. Thank you to ACCOC to bringing us all together. I know a few folks here from healthcare industry, and I just want to say that this is a perfect time to have this discussion because the federal government, the state are all working together on how to work together as far as healthcare and mental health. So, you know, the mental health parity has come out, CMS has issued their final rule, and the concept now is you can't do one without the other. You have to, the systems are not integrated, there's no communication between mental health and physical health, but now that they're issuing the state, so Medi-Cal in California, to work together with our mental health plans, the county, in order to figure out how to best help our membership. And so, again, it's a whole picture and you can't solve one problem without looking at the other. It's all interconnected. And so, again, while other things are aligning, it's the perfect time to tackle the homeless issue. So just thank you guys for putting this together and bringing us all here.
I'm proud to be a new member of ACCOC. My name's Bill Taramina. I want to also thank Dan for his amazing, incredible leadership and inspiration. Today, Dan and I had a chance to meet with the judge in his chambers, and he emphasized the things that Dan said. He's going to watch over us. He's going to make sure that this action takes place, and he's going to clear obstacles. I'm reminded of the lyrics of the song 8 Mile by Eminem. Think about it. This is the perfect storm. We have one chance, one opportunity, and we can't blow it. This is something I want to reassure you all, that it used to be NIMBY, not in my backyard. It's not that anymore. As elected officials, you need to be bold and not push back, but invite the naysayers in and ask them what alternative they have, and then let them know that is out of my backyard now. It's OOMYN. It's not NIMBY. They want it out of their yard now. This is the new theme. There's a groundswell of opposition to doing nothing. Susan's trying her best to push the tidal wave back, and the citizens are now rallying behind her. So when you bring these projects forward that Dan's talking about, 27 units will happen very quickly if we're bold enough to vote yes when it comes to your planning commission and your entitlement process. I implore you to do that. And one last thing. It's not a form of a question, it's another statement. Dan talked about the business community. Our mission statement is to have 50 Orange County legacy families put $2 million each in a conduit financing program to provide $100 million to lever up to $300 to $500 million that Dan taught us how big deals are done. He calls it play hardball, play the big game. We're going to follow Dan's footsteps as he did in the Irvine Company. That's the architect that did it. He made the Irvine Company what it is today. We're going to copy that, and we're going to create a solution for Susan and for Andrew and for the entire County of Orange. So please, be bold when this comes to you. The private sector is going to hit this real hard as soon as the plan is complete. And I don't make promises I can't keep. I will stand 50 Orange County legacy families in the front of this room within 30 days of the time that that plan is complete, and the money, the seed money, will be there. So vote yes, encourage your local developers, work with Jamboree and others to get this done, because we have one chance, one opportunity. Let's not blow it. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Jennifer Fitzgerald from the City of Fullerton. And a couple questions and then a comment. I would like you to talk more about the state funding and our timeline for being ready with one plan, one ask that could get Sacramento's attention. Also, Supervisor Doe mentioned $20 million in permanent supportive housing funds. I'd like to know more about that. Where are those and how do we access those? And then a lot has been made about Judge Carter's chambers today and the final decision, so I'd like to know some more about that. And then I would just say that what I really like about what's going on here, as someone who's been, in this issue for a while, is that I've never felt so much momentum from so many different sectors of our community, all aligned for the same purpose. And what I love about what we've talked about here today is the challenge has gone out to all of us, that the most appropriate part we as city officials can play is over land use planning. That's what we do. That's the biggest power we have. And so where in each of our communities do we already have authority over land that can be used for permanent supportive housing? Do we already have properties that are for sale that can be used for permanent supportive housing? What can we do within land use planning? That's our role. So what can each of us do? And I'll tell you, from my perspective, I'm committed to the challenge. And no matter what it takes in Fullerton, I'll be challenging my colleagues to join with me to find our fair share of permanent supportive housing. And I encourage each of you to do the same in your communities. And what I love is that there are nonprofits and there are business organizations and there are businessmen like Bill and others who are willing to take their appropriate place in the solution. So I don't want anyone to be overwhelmed that we have to solve this whole thing, because we cannot, and it wouldn't be appropriate, in my opinion, for us to do so. But with regards to land use, that is our greatest power. And that's what we can use over the next year to have that plan, according to your timeline that I hope you share with us, to be ready with that one plan to Sacramento to access those housing funds.
I won't answer the questions. I won't answer the questions on behalf of the county. I'll leave that to the county folks. But in terms of the bond and the funds that are available, SB2 is the source of funds that will trigger the $75 fee for financial real estate transactions. those dollars will start flowing in 2019. There is a formula breakdown for how those dollars both roll back into the county as well as to the California State Department of Housing and Community Development. So we will not even start to see those dollars until 2019. It's estimated about $300 million will be available on a yearly basis through that program. But again, Orange County will receive a certain portion of those dollars directly back to the county. Secondly, on the November 2018 ballot measure, that is it's a ballot measure. There's a lot under it. We are working on breaking it down and analyzing it fully, but it's a $4 billion bond, and I will tell you that in terms of timing, we have to start basically next week, because when the governor released his budget in January, there was already deals being made about how to spend those monies, and the ballot measure hadn't passed. So we have to jump on it very quickly, and there's ways to do this. We have a delegation who we've started talking to about this, who's very excited to help us and wants to be a part of this with us. So to answer your timeline, Jennifer, next week we're gonna keep going. We've been working for several weeks behind the scenes, very kind of quietly, to get things ready and organized so that we can immediately bring people in and just get to work. And then Susan, maybe do you want to talk about, or Frank, or, well, I think Jennifer wants to address the 20 million. Oh, Frank, okay.
So what I can say is that in this past month, the board has made a commitment to, as Chairman Doe had mentioned, to reallocate $20 million of our Mental Health Services Act funding to support an investment in low-income housing that would be geared for the mentally ill. So you have to qualify into the program, but the county has already made that decision. And there's a subcommittee of Chairman Doe and Supervisor Bartlett that are working on that project. But I can assure you that the availability of that funding, there's not a timeline or a timing issue. That money will be available as soon as we have good projects and we complete our business plan. It'll be allocated as part of that support structure.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name's Alan Bernstein. I'm with the city of Tustin. Jen took a lot of my fire away because she asked some of the major questions and made some references, but I would expect her to do so. What I did want to say is that this is sort of an evolutionary process from my perspective, and given that many of us in this room have been involved with this for 2 years since we started the OCO Homelessness Task Force. And it seems that tonight was a presentation of an executive summary, if you will, of what's been happening as a culmination of those efforts and behind the scenes. And so I'm interested in finding out, how do we make sure that we go from executive summary to actually having that plan, which we're going to need to have in our hands if in fact we're going to approach the business community, the not-for-profits, to garner those funds, as well as having the foresight of passing our legislation so that we can pool resources with regards to the redevelopment money that is still there in each and every one of our cities. So congratulations on that and having that great foresight. But everyone who's here tonight understands the problem, and I know that Heather and I and Kelsey and our staff, with our city manager and our other community development people and other colleagues have talked about that there's more of a coordinated effort and focus on addressing this issue than has ever been realized previously in Orange County. And that is fundamentally due to most of the people that are sitting in this room here tonight. So I want to congratulate all of you for having the energy and the foresight. And I'm looking forward to being a part of this and bringing something really amazing to fruition. So kudos to everyone in here, and thank you for all your efforts. And I'm looking forward to participating in finishing the business plan as well. So thank you.
I'm Katrina Foley from the Costa Mesa City Council, and I just want to echo all the sentiments about thanking you all for the excellent work that you're doing and the excellent work by the supervisor, Chairman Doe, and the county staff, who I know have been working 24 hours just trying to comply with the judge's orders. So we, I think, really appreciate that work. I have a couple questions. You know, in a city like Costa Mesa, where, and there's other cities in the county that are similar, we're essentially built out. And yet we have 3,000 units, I believe, about 3,000 units that are pending right now to be built by private development. And there has been really no interest whatsoever in making any portion of those units affordable. So what can you do? Where's Mr. Young? What can you do to talk with the development community that's already building, or at least entitled to build, to help us meet some of these needs, at least as it relates to the affordable housing component of what we're trying to address? I'll give you an example. When I was on the council, 2009, I blew out, the apartment homes Irvine Company project in Costa Mesa, Councilwoman Dixon and I tried to get 10%, just 10% for workforce housing, not even low, very low, workforce housing. And we just couldn't get any support for that. Maybe the tide has turned and there's more support for that. But as we're lining up these 50 legacy families, there's already projects that are designed, ready to go, and shovel ready. What can we do to maybe incorporate some of those projects into this plan? Then I have one more question.
So if you look at this from a private sector perspective, somebody went and paid market rate for that land based upon that entitlement, and so just to turn around and say, oops, now you've got to supply that is a pretty tough deal. And quite often it can have the effect of turning a project upside down. However, what did Kelsey tell us about? Money. All this money. So is there somewhere within Anaheim, your pipeline, Costa Mesa, your pipeline, somewhere else, where you can go and say, look, do you have the patience and the time within your deal to work with us so that we can apply the money to a portion of your site? So I think that that's a worthy meeting and something that you should have. I think before, when you just say, do you mind if I just take this, that's pretty troublesome, pretty tough to get, to be really honest with you. However, with the money that's coming through the pipeline, there's a real opportunity to target it and make it a true financial transaction. The second thing is, I want to gently, politely, lovingly challenge something when somebody says that they're built out and they don't have land. Every single city in this county has a site that could work. These are not high rises, these are not 1,000 units, and in fact, one of the things that I think Kelsey's work points out is that this is a small project, big solution program. So an acre matters, 2 acres matters, and every single city, and I would make this offer in hopes that not every one of you take it up on it, but I'm more than happy to show you where they are within your city. We have enough land in the cities, built out and otherwise, today to solve this problem. Some of it you own. Some of it Frank Kim owns. And I've asked Frank, can we put some of that land in play? Because when you can offer a free site, that's somewhere between 25 and 50% of the cost of that unit is the land alone. So we have an opportunity to look at surplus land. We have an opportunity to look at maybe a meeting with developers with money coming on the table. I'll mention a parcel here. Getting site specific is always really great fun. But we have Tita here, who I love and trust, and so I'm going to say it. And she'll allow me to do it, I hope. And that is that Cal Optima has a headquarters in Orange. They bought it. It came with a building. There's a building right next door to it that was supposed to be built. They're not going to build it. potentially that's a site for permanent supportive housing. And I would like to go to the comment of the councilwoman from Garden Grove. Whole person care, which is what she's referring to, is the North Star for healthcare. I sit on the board of directors of Hoag Hospital, and I participate in the region's 6 hospitals in the county. Whole person care, mental health, physical health, spiritual health, that is the North Star of healthcare in the future. And Cal Optima, we're looking for heroics here. We need Cal Optima to step up and work with us on that site. So that just gives you an example. Do they have to make money on that site? No. If it was private development, fair market value. There are many, many, many of these opportunities. So no one gets to say we're built out. Everybody in the pool.
So I had 2 more questions. And but first I want to say we've always been in the pool and we weren't trying to get out. But we also have a lot of units coming online, and we could use your help. We also have some motels that are potentials for conversions. So as part of this plan, will we be able to work with those motel owners to try to get some plan to convert those and incentivizing with that money that might be available?
Yeah, thank you for that. So Jamboree Housing, when we went over, we got the nonprofits together and said, what's your pipeline? What do you have in the pipeline today? Jamboree's got a nice little pipeline going of projects that they've got in play. 2 of those happen to be what we would call motel conversions. So there is the potential for more. You're going to get to know what Judge Carter was up to, and he went like a racehorse toward a motel solution. Now, granted, that's on a temporary basis. That's not sustainable to rent those rooms for the long haul. But there probably are within your communities motels that you could cause to be acquired, put into permanent supportive housing or affordable housing, and make them work.
And then my final question is on the $20 million, Mr. Kim, you clarified that it had to be geared towards mentally ill, and we've had lots of conversations with the county about what that definition is. And so from our perspective, and I think the councilwoman from Garden Grove sort of mentioned this, that there's a conflation of mental illness and homelessness. You can't put them in separate categories. And so we're hoping that the definition of mental illness is going to be broad enough to allow for some of the homeless that are on the streets to be able to benefit from this $20 million. Is that the plan?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And, it's a Mental Health Services Act, so there are rules and laws that have to be followed, but I don't want to get too complicated. I'm probably not the right person to speak to that. But absolutely, you can be both homeless and mentally ill, and so long as you qualify under the mental illness component, you qualify for the housing.
One over here, and they'll come back this way.
Thank you so much. First, I want to thank everybody for being here. This is my first, I don't know if this is on or not. Okay. I appreciate former Mayor Dan Young inviting me. This is my first ACCOC meeting, and pleased to be here on a very important topic. And in terms of housing and getting grants, I'm reassured and feel refreshed because of the interest in this room. Also because, Heather's a former lobbyist as well, so she knows how to find the money and get it, and working with the county, we could coordinate and I think do a good job. It's refreshing, and I think part of the message I'm going to take back to my city council in Santa Ana is that, all the cities are interested in stepping up and doing some housing. I haven't heard any city say no, so I hope that means we're all sincerely interested in doing that, because this is all a shared responsibility. There's many of us in Santa Ana, starting with myself, but a lot of our constituents that feel like we've done enough. For example, we have 600 to 800 shelter beds today, not in the future, today. We also, again, back to being landlocked, we're landlocked, been landlocked for a long time. We're 10% of the county's population. We're geographically about 5% of the county's geography in terms of acres. So we're kind of limited in what we could do, but we want others to help out, to share responsibility, but we also are committed to continue to do more. So for example, we have on the side just of affordable housing, including for homeless units, we have 1,500 affordable housing units in the works right now that are being built out over these next 12 months. All good, exciting projects. They include one that just opened formally a couple of weeks ago, The Orchard, which is a motel conversion run by Mercy House, one of the best operators in the whole county. Hook up with them, by the way. We also have in the works, and that's with permanent supportive housing. We also have Aqua Housing that's on 17th Street that is going to open soon. That's 56 units. The Orchard 71. And then we're going to have a Veterans Village for affordable, for veterans who are homeless, 75 units. So those new ones are 202. In some ways, I hope they count towards the 2,700 we need to do. But we'll work to get more dollars. And if you all continue this effort, I'm sure we could do more, and I'm committed to do that. And also, there are some parts of the county where there's land available. The county has 100 acres at the Great Park. And we all, I think, still need to nudge them to consider doing that. They have raw land as well as warehouses that could be open today. Dan, maybe that's something, folks in Irvine, and there's land in, a good area and all the rest. If not, they need to find other areas. In Costa Mesa, and I know it's a little bit of a, friendly competition of who needs to do what, but, there's that Fairview Developmental Center that the county is getting ready, that the state's getting ready to shut down and sell through some kind of process. And maybe it all doesn't need to be institutional, but some of it could. Perfect area for some mental health opportunities. And then I'll just close really with an invitation. We are an open city, a welcoming city in Santa Ana if you want to come tour the Orchard, which again is open now and with supportive housing, excellent operator. You're welcome to come visit that. We have, by the way, our housing manager here, Judson Brown, who's excellent. We have our new own little mini housing czar that just started just a few days ago, Hafsa Keika, that came from the housing, affordable housing JPA between the County of LA and City of Los Angeles. So we're excited to have her. And so again, you're welcome. We also have some areas that we still need help with. We have the courtyard that kind of works as a temporary thing, but it's not a long-term solution. And then we have our Plaza of the Flags that has its challenges, and we're making headway there. But again, you're invited to Santa Ana, and I'm glad you're part of the solution, and Santa Ana is very willing to continue as well. Thank you.
Well, and I have to give you applause because you just started rattling off pipeline sites for us. So we just need more of that now, right? So that's the idea. There's all these sites out there, and some are going to be, we have to get a little creative with them. Others, it's land, and that's those are matching dollars and self-help dollars that we can show the state, hey, we're putting our fair share in.
Hi, Dwight Robinson from Lake Forest. And first of all, I just want to say how much I appreciate all of our cities coming together on this very important topic, and it's encouraging to see that. So we need to work on this as a regional body, and so I'm glad that we are. To Jennifer Fitzgerald's point, Lake Forest, from my perspective, and I'll encourage my colleagues to do the same thing. From a land use perspective, we need to be finding sites so that we do our fair share. But I want to challenge us in two specific areas, and the first one is with community relations. We can talk about all the projects that we have going on. We can talk about what we want to do. But the fact of the matter is that the residents of this county think that we've done an atrocious job with this topic. They're frustrated, they're angry, and they're blaming each and every one of us that are in this room. And they should, because we're the leaders of this community and we've failed them. We've let this problem balloon to the point where we're having federal judges tell us what to do. We're having radio stations and newspapers throwing this stuff on the front page telling us, hey, this is a huge problem. We understand it. I know we've been talking about it for quite some time. There's a great task force that you all have put together. But we have to recognize that, and we need to reach out to our residents. So once we agree on a plan and communicate to them why this is going to work. As I think it was Bill that mentioned, the Eminem song, right? We got one chance. They feel like we've already blown our one chance. So we might get one more maybe. you know? And so it has to work. We need to make sure that this works here. So that's challenge number one. Challenge number two is that we need to reach out to our legislators, because, you know, the fact of the matter is that a proposition is going to pass in this state. And I can tell you for a fact that in Lake Forest, it's not going to pass as high as it probably will in Santa Ana or Anaheim. I'm going to have a lot of residents that are saying, I've already paid enough. You should be using state funds to deal with these problems. But the fact of the matter is it will pass. And we have legislators on both sides of the aisle, and they're going to have differing opinions on this proposition, but they need to work together to make sure that we're getting our fair share. So we need to encourage our colleagues, even those that are going to oppose the proposition, that they need to work together with those on the other side of the aisle and get us our dollars, because we all know that we don't get what we need for that specific reason, right? We basically just cut ourselves in half. And look, that's fine. Those legislators can oppose the proposition. I have no problem with that. But they need to recognize that we need to work together once it does pass and get those dollars back. So those are my two challenges for each one of us in the room.
I am going to keep us mindful of time because we're going to get kicked out at 8 o'clock. We're fine, but I'm going to keep us mindful.
Well, I know that the plan is to go to Sacramento and make sure we get our fair share of the dollars. But when we talk about the money, we also need to look at land. For example, in Costa Mesa, there's Fairview Developmental Center. I would bet that there are surplus sites in other parts of the county as well that are state-owned or that are federally owned. And we need to not just ask for the money, but really make a good case for the land as well. And then also, I know this has been brought up, but I would encourage everybody to work with your faith-based community. We have a coalition of churches that have developed things like the check-in center and a way to deal with people where you make the contact and you gradually try to get these people to accept help and become housed. And so it's assistance, but it's smart assistance. And so I would really encourage you to work with your faith-based communities as well. Plus, we have some of the biggest churches in the country here in Orange County, and I think they should be encouraged to step up.
Hi, I just want to build on that as the United Way, and thank you, Dan, for acknowledging the work about, we've been bringing together small groups of business leaders that have not been actively involved in this, and I can say there's a resounding interest in getting involved, and we've been talking to philanthropists, but we've also been bringing together the faith-based community. We have another big group of those folks coming together because we think, and again, I'll think what the comments from Lake Forest, how do we help get everybody on the same page and saying the same story? And so we're going to help them, educate them on all the good things that are going on. So we're trying to bring together everybody into that. And I also just want to acknowledge what was said by Anaheim is one of the things, and we're here tonight because permanent supportive housing is so important in terms of health and everything that's going on, right? And how can a child, if not sure where he or she is going to live, get that education they need or care about their health, or what are they going to do in terms of thinking that they have this career and all that. So all of those things all come together, and one of the things we are working with is how do we help people that are going into housing that have the ability, upskill them, get them into the medium level jobs. And so that's another part of the work that we're doing. That's part of this whole bigger ecosystem that we're looking to develop together. So I just want to add those couple of things. Thanks.
I'm Ross Chun from the city of Aliso Viejo, and the comments earlier this evening about those folks not in my backyard, I don't like that term, NIMBY, but those comments, I guess for our city, that really resonated. I think if any of you have been to one of our council meetings, you're probably envious of our 25-minute meetings and the 4 people who show up for them. But my experience in attending council meetings for more than 15 years and for sitting on that dais for the last 6 has been that nothing brings out the community more than if we use the term high density housing or affordable housing. Then all of a sudden we've got a full house and probably the kind of council meetings that you all have as opposed to our sprints. So I guess my question to Heather and to Mr. Young, when raising this issue, it's one thing to get your colleagues on board with it, but we talk about community engagement and how do we get the other 75 to 100 people that show up with a different opinion than the 4 people who've been coming to my council meetings for the last 10 years?
I think that's a really good question. I don't, my personal opinion is it is not one silver bullet, right? It's going to take a lot of work by all of us to be supportive of individual cities, making these choices to move forward. I will say, I think Sue did a really nice job of talking about their public awareness campaign that's launching on the 27th as this umbrella to help support some of these efforts. I think that's going to take some filtering down, but I think there's other strategies. I think engagement by the business community is huge. I think we have to get out there and explain to our residents why we're trying to do this and what will it actually accomplish for them. They have to sort of see what's in it for them, to be honest. So we have work to do there. But I will say that, at the end of the day, I think we're looking to all of you to be leaders. And I think you're going to have to make some tough decisions, and we need to rally behind you and be supportive of that. And I know that's going to be tough. I'm not naive to that, but I think we can get there. And I think this regional approach, for lack of a better term, gives you a little bit of cover. It's everyone's doing it together versus it's just all happening in Huntington Beach, or it's just all happening in San Juan, wherever it feels heavy at that time. But when you're all doing it together, you give each other a little bit of cover.
So I had a really good question, but I can't stop thinking about the 25-minute meetings in Aliso Viejo. Anyway, I almost want to move to Mission Viejo. Aliso Viejo. So I went to the Orchard. Well, a couple things. One is, Fairview Development Center has in fact been zoned 25% institutional. The problem is it's owned by the state, and the state can do whatever they want to do with it, but Costa Mesa is on board. I went to the Orchard. The Orchard is a terrific place. 71 units of permanent supportive housing. I toured it. It's developed, by the way, and operated by 2 of my neighbors in not only Costa Mesa, but Mesa Verde in Costa Mesa. But my question is to Dan Young. So you made a comment, and I want to follow up on a phrase that you used. You said that we should cause the motel owners to sell their properties. And I'm just a rookie councilman, but I got to ask, how does a municipality cause a motel owner to sell their property that they've held sometimes in their families for 40 years?
Well, first of all, let me clean that up. I'm not sure you have that authority to cause it to happen. But again, I bring you back to this, that 2 points that are really important to take away as you talk to your colleagues. Number one, there is real money showing up at the state level. This is real money. So if you can get some of that money available, there's a price at which that motel is a seller. That's one thing, and that's worth exploring. Now, can that really happen? Yes, because Jamboree, in fact, has 2 deals in their pipeline that are, in fact, motels that they're acquiring. So I think that there's real opportunity strategically where you've got a family that says, it's time for us to sell our property, or an individual, or you can use the money to tantalize them into an exit strategy. So this isn't about redevelopment condemnation or something of that sort. No, this is really about bringing the incentive, the ultimate incentive of money to the table at the right time to cause that to happen. And to be really honest with you, I can tell you that if I was in this room and this meeting was happening back when I was mayor, I'd say Saddleback Inn's in play. Let me go meet with them. Because I'd want that property cleaned up. So there's going to be those properties that you want cleaned up, and this is a perfect opportunity to do it. And if you get people like Mercy House running them, you're going to have a different state of affairs than the current. That's what I meant.
Okay, so I just want to make a really quick announcement. We are now at 7:40. So I've had 3 people make eye contact with me in the last 2 minutes. Those are the last 3 speakers. And then we're going to cut it off and let Heather wrap it up. I'm just giving full disclosure to everybody, okay? So I'm going to go in a diagonal line this way, okay?
Thank you. Warren Kusamoto, City of Los Alamitos. So maybe, Dan, you can answer this question or address it. So I can't help but think that these are somewhat symptoms of a problem, and the root cause of the problem may be not just the mental health. So I think the regional approach, not just solving the housing issue, but the human dignity part of it. What are these people going to be doing, and are we going to be looking at that, as part of the overall solution? Because housing is just one aspect of it, but what are they going to do? How are they going to restore their dignity? Thank you.
So I would just mention this, that what Susan Price has in mind in terms of the evolution and development of the system is very complex, very multifaceted, and it's aimed at taking somebody off the street who maybe doesn't even want to come off the street, that's going to need coaching and get into a system of continuum of care. This is not about getting 2,700 units of apartment units and then it's passing out keys. That's going to fail. That will fail. What's going to work is getting people into this system. She has set this system up into 3 strategic planning areas. You are in one of them. I don't know which one you're in, but you're in one of them. You've been invited to the table to meet and talk about how that's going to work. And that continuum of care is going to be in your set of adjacent cities. I really encourage you to engage in that process, to help build that process out. And it's a whole process of stabilizing health, physical health, mental health, stabilizing, get a roof over your head, sometimes in shelter, and then working on an individual plan to build that human dignity. And the faith-based community is extremely involved in this. I know Kay Warren's part of our coalition from Saddleback Church. It's really an entire system.
You might just want to stay there, Dan. Gene Hernandez. I'm the mayor for the city of Yorba Linda, whose theme is Land of Gracious Living. Now that should give you some insight what my community thinks about homeless. Land of Gracious Living. So I underscore what Aliso Viejo's councilman just suggested, that this is a huge cultural shift for my community. Huge. And I can't be alone. There's got to be others. I know Villa Park's here, too. I know how they feel about it, too. So this is going to be an issue. So we need to, I can't gloss over that. We really have to spend a lot of time doing a cultural shift to say, hey, we need to do our part, which we're willing to do with money. But what I'm hearing tonight is now you're going to actually put homeless shelters in the community. We don't have buildings over 3 stories. We have no motels. It's primary residential, high-end residential, and nothing panics my community. And I've seen it because I've been at those midnight meetings when we talked high density. In fact, they even took zoning out of our hands. We passed a Measure B, which said, we don't trust councils in the future to make any zoning decisions. So the only way we can zone to high density is by a vote of the people. Well, the RHNA numbers were hitting us pretty heavy, so we did do a Measure B vote, and we did get 12 properties identified you could build high density there. Of course, they're all on the periphery, like Salvi Ranch, and we did do high density there, but most people in Yorba Linda think that Salvi Ranch really isn't in Yorba Linda, so we got away with that. But if you try to put it in a neighborhood, it's going to be a battle. So what I'm suggesting here, I'm going to need help in this transition of mindset to say we need to do our share. Every other county is doing this. We need to do it. I heard tonight something I think is sellable for us, and that's putting in, we get the affordable housing. We're into that. We're going to do that. But maybe sprinkle in this other homeless, which that was a new concept for me. Say, wow, okay. But looking at these are very, very nice. That's the education that's going to have to occur, at least in my community. Other than that, we'll certainly give money to Villa Park. If you guys want to build one, we'll support you there. So So that's my dilemma, and I know I'm not alone in this because I've seen I didn't. The water district raised water rates, and that cost 4 out of 5 directors their position. They got voted out, and that raise was nothing. So just kind of picture, we have a very involved community. No, I get more than 4 at our council meeting. So, and they're educated and they're entitled. At least I think they are, and they have input on everything. So it's going to be a pitched battle, and our assistant city manager here, so he knows what I'm talking about, and it's going to be tough. But we recognize we have a moral responsibility. You're absolutely right. So we're not shirking that. I think Heather, you said be a hero. There's a difference between a hero and a fool. I'm trying to get right in between there, so because I don't want to walk that plank, or I'll be gone. So we have to do this right. We have to do it smart. So I'll be looking for help from you folks. Thank you.
Is that it? Okay.
One more.
Go ahead.
Do you want to respond, Dan?
Do that.
Yeah, we get it.
Sprinkle them in.
Well, if we built it, we'd look that nice. I
Yeah.
guarantee it. It would be Irvine quality, but it'd be very nice.
I would like to piggyback on what you were saying, Gene, and this is a compliment to United Way. I think, to his point, and to a lot of us who are in the room, we do need support. We do need talking points. How do you manage that? And United Way has a really great name, and I think you could do that. I had the good fortune to meet with Sharon Ellis the other day, the lady that runs Habitat for Humanity. And she has a new idea, or their system has a new idea. If you have, just an example, if you have 20 units that you're building, let's say they're for sale condos, and 3 of them need to be set aside for affordable housing, Habitat for Humanity wants to come in now and buy those 3, and they will take care of them and manage them and keep the 60-year whatever is on that. And, think about this. Habitat for Humanity, like United Way, has been around a long time. They have never had a foreclosure in all the years that they've been functioning. So they treat the whole person. They do it by spiritually, financially, work. And so I just wanted to leave you with that. We all need help, and we all can help each other. And to Heather's point, I think regional is really the key. And that's what we clearly saw when we were in San Antonio. I felt like the city of San Antonio felt like a big Orange County, and they couldn't have led us better. So thank you.
Okay, so I think we've concluded tonight. So next steps, the city managers will receive an email from me tomorrow asking for your names of your staff who you would like to participate in our group. We will gather that group and very, very quickly, and we will be off to the races. So I'm going to work directly through the city managers, but that doesn't mean with the electeds that we're not going to continue to communicate. Just let us get this group together, and then we will come back to the electeds with a wider sort of scope of what this plan looks like and the time for it.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for being here tonight. So appreciate your time. Please drive safely. Thank you. Thank you.